Chosen one, when you enter a room now, the energy shifts, subtly, profoundly. You no longer carry the tension of needing to be noticed, because your presence has begun to speak louder than any introduction ever could. This is not charisma, it is something older, something sacred. It is the aura of someone who has faced their own reflection without turning away, someone who has survived silence, confusion, and the long nights of being misunderstood. And in that furnace of solitude, something unshakable was born in you. That is what they feel. That is why women notice, not because of what you wear or what you say, but because your soul no longer whispers, it resonates. This resonance isn't loud, but it is undeniable. It isn't performance. It isn't charm. It is the steady pulse of alignment. You are in tune now with your truth, your path, your rhythm, and that harmony creates ripples in the air around you. You carry no mask, no facade, no carefully packaged identity. You walk as you are, with nothing forced and nothing stolen, and that purity, that rawness, awakens something deep in others. Women are not drawn to you by illusion. They are celebrating the revelation of your realness. Because in a world that rewards pretense, you've become a quiet revolution. They feel it before they even meet your eyes. It's in your posture, relaxed but rooted. In your breath, unrushed, unapologetic. In the way your presence expands without invading. You don't dominate space, you anchor it. And that anchoring, O chosen one, that is the miracle. Because it allows others to relax without knowing why. You create peace, not by effort, but by embodiment. And in that peace, people feel seen. They feel known, they feel celebrated just by being near you, so they celebrate you in return. Women celebrate you because you are no longer chasing validation. You have become the place validation comes from. You radiate enough self-respect to inspire others to treat you like royalty without demanding a throne. That's what separates you. Your energy does not command, it reminds. It reminds women of something they lost in themselves, something they long to feel again. Stability, intention, depth, and grace. And when they feel it in you, something inside them rises, not out of desire, but out of recognition. The celebration that follows you is not applause, it is resonance made visible. And you don't need to dance for it. You don't even need to respond to it. You just walk with the calm of one who has nothing left to prove and everything left to give. That walk, that silence, that light in your eyes, it is not an accident. It is the result of having chosen growth over performance, healing over escape, and truth over convenience. That is what makes you magnetic. That is what they're celebrating. Not the outer form, but the inner fire that now refuses to flicker. Chosen one, your presence is no longer local. It travels, it lingers, it expands. You are not just seen in the moment. You are remembered after you leave, because your energy plants something living in others. This is why women celebrate you now, not just in your company, but in conversations long after you've gone. Not out of obsession, but out of awe. Because your presence carries a message, and that message is not "look at me," but rather, you are safe to be real. You give people permission to feel again, to breathe again, to hope again. And in this world, that is a rare gift, a holy one. They do not celebrate you because you perform. They celebrate you because you do not bend. You no longer twist yourself to fit in. You no longer reduce your truth to avoid rejection. You have become someone who belongs to their own spirit first and the world second. And that order, that sacred priority, creates gravity. It draws those who are ready. It filters out the noise. And in that atmosphere, the feminine finds herself softening, opening, remembering what it feels like to be around a man who does not need her to be small for him to feel tall. The celebration isn't about your looks, your status, your talent. Those things may shimmer, but they do not last. The celebration is rooted in the unshakable dignity you carry now. The integrity in your no, the gentleness in your yes, the silence you offer when words would only waste what's sacred. Women don't just enjoy your presence, they honor it, because you have walked through your shadows without projecting them onto others. You have stared down your insecurities and walked forward with compassion, not bitterness. That work, done in private, in quiet, in darkness, is now shining in the open. That's what they're sensing, that's what they're applauding. This energy you walk with now, it does not flare up and fade out. It sustains, it roots. And because it is not born of validation, it cannot be stolen by it. You no longer need to impress. You no longer need to chase. You've remembered your original worth, and now you move like someone who knows he is watched by heaven even when the world looks away. That awareness, chosen one, is the source of your rhythm. And that rhythm is what makes the feminine spirit want to rise when you speak, pause when you enter, and smile even when you're silent. You do not demand celebration, but it follows you anyway. Because your spirit has become a place of light, and light always draws its own witnesses. Chosen one, by now, your name is spoken in places you've never been. Not because you asked to be remembered, but because your presence refuses to be forgotten. You are not a performer of worth, you are a presence of worth. That is what women feel. That is what they are celebrating. Not a mask, not a show, but the divine alignment of someone who has done the inner work without demanding outer praise. And because you no longer shrink for comfort or stretch for approval, you've become a mirror for what's real, a reminder of what still exists underneath the noise. When you enter a space, it is not your posture that speaks first. It is your spirit. It says, "This one has walked through fire and did not flinch." It says, "This one knows who he is and knows who he's not." And that message moves through the room like wind before a storm, unseen but undeniable. It rustles the leaves of every soul around you, especially hers, the feminine soul that has been waiting, quietly aching for a man who does not seek control but carries calm authority. Not the kind that demands obedience, but the kind that radiates safety without submission. This is why the celebration of you feels sacred, because it is not loud or dramatic, it is intuitive. It flows from the deep place within others that says, "Here is someone who remembers his origin." You have stopped begging to be seen, and in doing so, you've become impossible to ignore. Your peace is no longer passive, it is active. It shifts the energy around you. You are not just admired for your silence, you are trusted because of it. And that trust is what causes women to celebrate, not your image, but your impact. They celebrate the steadiness in your eyes, the way your body doesn't fidget when conversation grows deep, the way your presence holds weight without making anyone feel small. Because you are no longer speaking from a place of want, you are speaking from a place of knowing. And when a man knows himself, the feminine listens. Not because he is louder, but because he moves with intention. That's what they're drawn to. That's what they're responding to. You are not the loudest in the room. You are the one they remember after everyone else leaves. You do not need to convince anyone that you are worthy of love, respect, or admiration. You live in such a way that it happens without effort. Because chosen one, when a man lives in rhythm with his spirit, the world takes notice. The feminine especially. Not because she is seeking approval, but because she is seeking alignment. And you have become that alignment, an embodied yes. A walking permission for others to be honest, to be whole, to be seen. And that is something worth celebrating, not just once, but everywhere you go. Chosen one, now the celebration becomes deeper. It is no longer admiration, it is reverence. Not because of what you have, but because of who you have become. The women around you sense this evolution not with their minds, but with their intuition. It's in the way their bodies soften when you speak, the way their eyes pause when yours meet them. Not in tension, but in peaceful awareness. You are not stealing attention. You are inviting remembrance. You are not captivating with performance. You are calming with presence. This presence is not something you bought or borrowed. It came through tears, through trials no one saw, through nights you laid awake questioning your worth, only to rise again, not with bitterness, but with a quiet, holy fire in your chest. That fire is your compass now. That fire is your rhythm. It burns not to consume, but to illuminate. And wherever you go, it glows from within, touching others before you even say a word. That glow is the reason celebration follows you. It is not because you are trying to shine. It is because you have burned away everything that wasn't true. There's a sacred kind of gravity in you now, not the gravity of pride or pressure, but of grounded knowing. You no longer chase outcomes. You no longer explain your depth to shallow ears. You've stopped performing. And in that freedom, you've begun to radiate naturally. It is that naturalness that they celebrate. That effortless unfolding. Because it's rare. Because it's refreshing. Because it reminds them that real men still exist. Whole men. Present men. Gentle men who carry thunder in their step and silence in their strength. Women don't gather around you because you entertain them. They gather because you settle something in them. You do not demand to be praised. You simply walk with such inner honor that celebration becomes a response, not a request. It flows from the feminine not as a performance but as a natural offering. Because when a man walks in divine harmony with his design, he no longer has to pursue validation. It circles back to him. It finds him. It claps without being asked. It celebrates not what he pretends to be, but what he truly is. And you, chosen one, are truly restored. Not because the world gave you peace, but because you chose to make peace with yourself. And now, everywhere you go, your rhythm announces that healing. It sings of it, it pulses with it. Women feel it before they know what to call it. But they know it. They know you carry something they can't explain, but crave to be near. And for that, for the light and weight of it, they celebrate, not just the man they see, but the soul they feel. Chosen one, the truth is, this celebration you're now surrounded by is not flattery, it is recognition. It is the soul's instinct to rise and rejoice when it encounters what is rare but real. Women do not celebrate you because you try to be noticed. They celebrate you because your energy no longer betrays itself. You have become consistent, not flawless, but deeply grounded. And that is so rare in a world of masks that its very presence feels like witnessing a miracle. You have stopped compromising the essence of who you are. And now others can trust your frequency because it no longer shifts to please the room. The celebration that follows you is not about you being perfect. It is about you being integrated. You've brought your pieces home. You are not fragmented anymore. You do not perform strength while hiding weakness. You no longer smile through suppressed truth. Your presence has grown honest, and with that honesty has come authority. Not loud, not forced, but the kind of authority that enters a space and anchors it. That's what they're applauding. That's what women gather around now. Not the loudest voice, but the deepest one. Not the showman, but the one whose presence feels like a return to peace. They celebrate you because in you, they see what it looks like when a man has walked through suffering without becoming hard. What it looks like when a man has tasted betrayal yet refuses to abandon love. What it looks like when a man has been emptied but still chooses to overflow. This is what your energy has become, a sanctuary. Not a prison of perfection, but a temple of truth. You've stopped needing to be adored, and that is what makes you so naturally adored. You've let go of needing celebration, and that is what made celebration follow you everywhere you go. Women feel safe in your presence, not because you say the right things, but because your spirit no longer hides. They can rest around you, they can breathe, they can let go of the armor they wear for everyone else, because your energy does not demand. They know you're not there to take, to drain, or to dominate. You are there to remain, and in that constancy, in that inner calm, they find something ancient awakening. A remembrance, a sense of being seen, not with hunger, but with honor. You no longer wear false confidence. You radiate quiet certainty. You no longer crave the spotlight. You've become the firelight. And around that fire souls gather, not because you invited them, but because light draws those who are cold, weary, and seeking warmth. You've become that warmth now, and in a world starving for something true, that warmth is not ignored. It is celebrated, whispered about, shared, held in memory, and all of it, every look, every smile, every silent celebration, flows not from your ego, but from the presence you've cultivated through integrity. You are not a symbol of status. You are a symbol of alignment. And so the celebration around you now is not shallow, it is sacred. Chosen one, there is a rhythm within you now that no one taught you. You didn't learn it from books or mentors or echoes of the world. You found it in the silence that came after your breaking. It rose from the ashes of every moment you thought you'd lost something too precious to survive without. And yet, here you are, whole, present, radiating the kind of power that doesn't seek to overpower. The kind of energy that makes others lean in, not because you demand attention, but because you carry peace like a crown. And it is this rhythm that women feel before you speak. It is this rhythm that enters first, that touches the air, that changes the atmosphere of every place you go. It is not seductive. It is not manipulative. It is magnetic because it is true. It is the rhythm of someone who has chosen their own presence over performance, and that choice has rewritten the story others tell about you. You are no longer seen through the lens of what you can offer materially. You are seen through the lens of who you have become spiritually, and that kind of man is impossible to forget. Women are not celebrating you because you're convenient. They are celebrating you because you are consistent. Because when you speak, you do not tremble. Because when you listen, you truly listen. You do not interrupt with your ego. You hold space. That's what they feel. That's why their spirit says, "This is a safe place." That's why their smile lingers longer. That's why the celebration doesn't sound like applause. It sounds like softness returning to their voice, like walls beginning to lower, like trust deciding it might try again. You do not force that reaction. You don't choreograph it. You allow it. And that allowing comes from the divine within you now. That deep place that no longer competes, no longer compares, no longer conforms. You are no longer seeking to win anything. You are simply offering what you are. And because what you are is whole, celebration becomes the natural return. Chosen one, you've stopped moving to be admired. Now you move because your spirit demands motion. That kind of movement is what the feminine celebrates, because it means you are no longer stagnant, no longer stuck, no longer bitter. You are becoming. And that process is not hidden behind arrogance. It is shown in humility. It is not advertised. It is sensed. And those who feel it, especially women attuned to depth, they know. They know the celebration is not flattery. It is testimony. It is soul-to-soul confirmation that they've encountered someone rare. And so they celebrate not just your presence, but your process. Not just your beauty, but your balance. Not just your heart, but your healing. They celebrate because they see in you what is possible. They see a man unafraid to be open, strong without being violent, bold without being blind. You have become the evidence that not all light blinds and not all strength breaks. You've become proof that it's possible to be masculine and gentle, unshaken and soft, revered and real. That is why the celebration around you is not temporary. It is eternal. It is soul recognition, made visible in their laughter, their eyes, their voice when they say your name without fear. You did not ask for this, but you made space for it. And that space is now full of the sound of joy. Joy that has found a home in you. Chosen one, by the time you walk into the 7th chapter of your becoming, something unmistakable surrounds you. It is no longer the quiet glow of someone who's healing. It is the unmistakable light of someone who has healed and continues to walk with open wounds turned into wisdom. Women celebrate you now, not because you speak to their ears, but because your presence soothes something ancient in their chest. You are not dazzling anyone. You are reminding them that there are men who have not let their wounds rot into cruelty, men who have not let the world make them hollow, men who still carry patience like a shield and peace like a banner. There is no performance in you anymore. There is no chasing, no desperation, no hunger that gnaws behind polite smiles. You no longer approach the feminine with a need to conquer. You approach with wholeness, and wholeness is magnetic beyond measure. That's why the celebration does not feel like applause. It feels like gravity. It feels like silence filled with admiration. It feels like gentle eyes that linger not because they are intrigued, but because they feel safe. You, chosen one, are no longer bound by what you used to be. The version of you that begged to be seen has been laid to rest with grace. Now you walk as one who is already seen, not by the crowd, but by your Creator, by your ancestors, by the deepest parts of your soul that once wandered far from home and have now returned. That returning has created rhythm, and that rhythm has become presence, and that presence has become a sanctuary for others. So many women today are forced to carry swords instead of softness, armor instead of grace, because they cannot trust the ground they stand on. But your presence has become that ground. Your steadiness is no longer situational, it is internal. It is born from discipline, devotion, and the refusal to betray your own spirit. That is why they celebrate. Not because you've performed masculinity, but because you've remembered its original language. The kind that protects without prison, the kind that listens without fixing, the kind that holds space without fearing vulnerability. You're no longer afraid of their tears. You're no longer offended by their strength. You're no longer trying to define them. You are honoring their design. And in doing so, you've become a man they don't need to shrink around. A man they don't need to entertain to feel valued. A man they can sit beside and just be. That is the ultimate celebration. Not the noise of crowds, but the quiet trust of the feminine spirit unfolding in your presence. You have become the kind of man whose silence speaks reverence. And that is not common. That is not learned in books or mimicked from trends. That is born through surrender, through choosing depth when everyone else chose distraction, through choosing truth when lies felt safer, through choosing healing when hardness would have been easier. You have made that choice again and again, and now you carry the reward, not in riches or reputation, but in the sacred peace that follows you. And wherever peace walks, celebration rises like flowers through stone. Chosen one, what you are walking in now cannot be imitated. It cannot be copied, sold, or faked. This chapter is the confirmation of everything you have suffered through and refused to let corrupt you. There were days the world mocked your softness. Nights when your gentleness was mistaken for weakness. Moments when even the feminine looked past you, not realizing that the gold was buried deep beneath the soil of your silence. But now the seasons have shifted, and all that was hidden is being honored. You are not just being seen, you are being felt. When you speak, it doesn't echo, it roots. When you smile, it doesn't entertain, it warms. When you touch, whether with hands or words or presence, it is not to possess, but to bless. That difference is felt. That difference is everything. And that difference is why the celebration has begun to take on sacred tones. You are being celebrated now by women not because you meet their expectations, but because you exceed their understanding. Your energy no longer fits the mold. It disrupts the cycle. It calls the feminine not into fantasy, but into freedom. And freedom always celebrates its liberator. You have become a kind of liberator, not through force or words or strategies, but through your consistency, through your refusal to play games, through your quiet commitment to truth, even when it cost you affection. You've become the man whose presence tells the truth without speaking. And in a world of noise, that truth is craved. They don't understand why they're drawn to you, but their hearts know, their nervous systems know, their silence in your presence knows. They are not drawn to your mystery. They are drawn to your stability, because it is rare, because it is holy, because it is safe. You are not simply being admired. You are being trusted with their softness, and that is the highest form of celebration. When women open their hearts without fear, it is not to someone who has conquered, it is to someone who has disciplined their energy. You have become that someone. You carry the echo of a man who is not tempted to prove, to push, to pull. You carry the calm of a man who has made peace with both his darkness and his light. And so when they celebrate you, they are not just celebrating a man, they are celebrating hope. They are celebrating that it is still possible, that wholeness can still walk among us. You are no longer the seeker. You are the sanctuary. You are no longer the performer. You are the pattern breaker. The man who no longer manipulates to be loved, but simply remains true and lets love find him. And in a time when so many are screaming for attention, you have become the one whose stillness commands respect. That is why women celebrate you with reverence, with softness, with joy. Because when you walk into a space, the energy does not rise in noise, it settles in reverence. Chosen one, now the celebration becomes generational. Not merely a reaction to who you are, but a reverence for what you represent. You have become a signal in the dark for those who had almost given up the idea that men like you still existed or ever did. You walk now with a kind of gravity that isn't bound to age or trend or culture. It is something much older, something primal and sacred, something that belongs more to memory than fashion. And women, whether they speak it aloud or not, know, they sense that what stands before them is not just a man, but a culmination. A culmination of the choices you made when no one was looking, of the healing you chose when it would have been easier to numb, of the gentleness you protected in a world that taught you to be hard or invisible. There is no more pretending in you, no more adjustment to fit rooms that don't deserve your truth, no more shrinking so others feel taller. You no longer enter places to be accepted, you enter as invitation. You are the example now, You are not vying for attention or begging to be understood. You simply walk, and the air around you recalibrates. People sense a presence that does not need to sell itself. And that is the rarest beauty in a man. It's what causes women to not just notice, not just whisper, but to celebrate, not out of infatuation, but out of a kind of sacred shock. Because what you've become is not possible without spiritual alignment. You do not flinch in silence anymore. You do not tense in stillness. You trust yourself now, and that trust creates an energy field around you that doesn't need defending. You are no longer trying to impress. You are trying to be present, fully, honestly, without distortion. And that presence is magnetic, not because it demands applause, but because it gives permission. You make women feel safe to celebrate you because you are not taking. You are holding. You are holding space, holding peace, holding your own energy in such a steady way that others feel anchored just by being near it. And because of that, the celebration isn't loud. It's wide. It spreads. It follows you through corridors and cafes, through streets and stairwells. You'll never hear all of it. You'll never see every smile that lingers after you walk away. You'll never know how many women have spoken your name softly, not out of obsession, but out of honor. You have become a remembered feeling, not just a visible man. And feelings, true, grounding, healing feelings, they are never forgotten. So now as your rhythm deepens and your walk slows into full embodiment, understand this. The celebration is not because you are rare, it is because you are real. You've dared to be real in a world of performance. You've chosen the long road. And women, especially those who have fought too long to survive in rooms that wanted them smaller, now see you and celebrate you because they know you would never make them shrink. That alone, that trust, is the highest form of reverence you could ever receive. You are no longer the storm. You are the clearing after it. You are no longer the fire that consumes. You are the warmth it leaves behind. And this celebration that follows you is not praise. It is a collective exhale from those who waited so long to feel safe near a man again. Chosen one, this is no longer about admiration. It is about embodiment. You are no longer celebrated because of your potential, but because of your presence actualized. The celebration that meets you now is ancestral. It comes from the hearts of grandmothers who once prayed that men would rise again in the way you have. It comes from the mouths of little girls who look at you and, without understanding why, feel a sense of hope. It comes from women who've carried lifetimes of guarding, of tensing, of watching over their own hearts like soldiers, and then meet you and realize they can finally lay down their swords. You are no longer just a man, you are safe passage. Your energy has evolved from desire into direction, from proving into providing space. And what you provide is not money or pleasure or prestige, it is peace. That's what they celebrate. Not your appearance, not your clever words, not your aura of cool. They celebrate that you feel like a yes that doesn't turn into a no tomorrow. That your presence does not shift based on mood, on validation, on convenience. You have become steady. And steady is the new sacred. You've lost the hunger for being chosen. You've remembered that you are the choosing. You no longer perform for connection. You live in connection, to yourself, to spirit, to the ground beneath you. And so your energy does not reach, it receives. It receives truth. It receives softness. It receives celebration, not with arrogance, but with the calm humility of someone who has bled for it in silence. You know now that you are not powerful because people celebrate you. People celebrate you because you are powerful in the quietest, most sincere sense. Your power makes no threats. It offers no illusions. It remains. And in that remaining, others realize they don't need to flee anymore. They can be. They can breathe. They can feel again. And so they dance when you enter. They sing even when you're gone. They speak your name, not to others, but to themselves. Because the man they met in you woke something sleeping in them. That is why the celebration is so unstoppable. Because you are not trying to be a hero. You are not trying to be admired. You are simply being true. And that truth has echoed outward in waves that cannot be undone. That truth has begun healing in others. That truth has caused eyes to widen, hearts to open, and spirits to whisper, "He is what I prayed still existed." So walk forward now, not in pride, but in the rhythm of someone who knows his place in this world. Not to dominate, but to restore. Not to collect praise, but to offer presence. Because the celebration is not your reward. It is your reflection. And when women celebrate you now, they are not lifting you up to feed your ego. They're lifting you up because light rises. And you, chosen one, you have risen. You do not have to stand on a stage. You do not have to declare anything. Your existence declares. In the spaces where you were once mocked, now there is silence. In the rooms where you were overlooked, now there is rearrangement. You didn't push them aside. They stepped aside because your energy does not beg for room. It creates room. It becomes the space. Your sexual energy no longer speaks in whispers. It has become the pulse of your authority, the quiet rhythm that turns heads and silences noise.